What's up, guys, and welcome back to part 2 of Scourge of War Waterloo, episode 29, the Battle of Quatre, as the French. So, in our last video, we covered our approach and our capturing of the initial objectives, all the way up to getting our line established from the Bazi Wood through Gemion Court and northwards towards the northeast objective and anchoring our flank on the lake. And we stopped at 15:30. And in this episode, we're going to pick up right where we left off at 15:30, and we're going to be covering Bonaparte's division, his initial attack on Grand-Pierrepont, as I explained in the strategy session at the beginning of the first episode, the first part uh, of this video. In order to unlock the next objective, which is the Bazi Wood South, we have to first capture Grand-Pierrepont. So I already covered pretty much what the strategy and everything was in the last video, part 1 of this scenario. So we're just going to get right into it here. All right. So here we are. We're going to start with by advancing Soy's brigade, and his job is going to be to capture the artillery right around Grand-Pierrepont. And while his brigade is approaching, we'll just check out our line and see where we left off here. As you can see, we have the Allies really bottled up here. Really, there's no easy route for them to try and approach us. If they try to approach in the center, it's not going to work with infantry because we've got our entire cavalry brigade posted right in the center here. If they try to approach with cavalry, well, unfortunately, they're going to either have to take on an entire cavalry brigade, or they're going to go up against a fortress of squares here with cannon behind them. And there's really no easy way for them to try and get by either one. So we have them boxed up nicely here. And let's just continue the video here. So what I'm doing here is deploying skirmishers to better screen the cavalry. I do have one unit deployed in skirmish formation already in front of the cavalry, but you can see horses are still dropping. This isn't a very big unit, and they're covering a wide front. So what I want to do is get another skirmisher unit or two out in front to better screen the cavalry, because I want to keep them here so we can keep forcing units that approach into square so that they can't do anything. So as you can see, a cavalry unit has approached the kind of the border between the fortress and the horsey fort, and they just can't do anything. They move up, and there's nothing they can do. They can't charge the square, and they're just going to get blasted to bits by the artillery. So that's what this whole line is basically about, stopping the enemy from being able to really do anything. Basically, I've limited their options to set up and shoot. That's basically what they can do. And because we're trying to watch a lot going on at once, what we really don't want to happen is for freak charges to happen. Because a charge or two, when you're not looking from the enemy, can change everything in a hurry. So what we're basically set up to do is basically give the enemy no choice but to do, this right here. Set up and try and shoot it out with us, because nothing is going to change dramatically in a minute or two or three just with that going on. It's charges, cavalry charges, infantry charges. That's what changes things in a hurry if you're not paying attention. So our entire line is basically set up to discourage charges from happening, because they're going to pay a very heavy cost if they try to, because everything is covering everything else. The squares are protecting the guns from cavalry. The guns are protecting the squares from infantry. The skirmishers are covering the squares. Everything is kind of protecting itself, one thing from another thing. And that's the general idea behind this line, is to give us the time we need to focus on capturing Grand-Pierrepont and not really have to pay attention to what's going on in our main line, because we're pretty confident that it's going to hold out, but just because of the way it's set up. Because here we actually have to pay attention to what we're doing and actually do things. Whereas the line that's set up as it is right now can be left alone for a few minutes at a time, without us watching it, and reasonably be sure that nothing serious is going to go down, because of the way we have our line set up. All right, so we've taken care of the guns, and now we're going to surround the fort. Now, I could go and deploy skirmishers like we did with Hussein's brigade when we captured L'Oreal early on in the last video. But I want to get these guys out of here as fast as possible. So I'm willing to take a few extra casualties to get them to run, so we can capture this fort and head into the Bazi Wood, especially before any serious Allied reinforcements can make it into the Bazi Wood. I want to knock out whatever is left in there of the original Dutch-Belgian force that was kind of occupying that Court area before we ejected them, before they have a chance to bring up any serious reinforcements. Now I can see that the Brunswick Corps is already here in this part of the field, so I know it's not going to be them. So I think next up would be Alten's 3rd Division, and I don't think they're on the map yet. So if we can, although this may be them, but this could also be part of Picton's division. They just deployed further back. So yeah, I don't think Alten's 3rd Division is on the map yet. So if we can get into the Bazi Wood fairly quickly with Bonaparte's division and just knock what's left of those Dutch Belgians out of the way, we should be able to take the Bazi Wood South objective relatively handily, pretty easily, because there's not much there to oppose us right now, and we can just send our full division in there and just bulldoze them. So the main discouraging ingredient of this line is, of course, the artillery, because of how dangerous artillery is at close range. That is why these allies are so sketchy about moving forward, because they've gotten pounded enough already that they're now thinking twice about it. So I always want to keep the supply wagons going back and forth between the guns, to keep that ammo topped off, and especially the all-important canister fire, should any Allied units decide to move close enough for us to hit them with that. And the guns, of course, are screened by the skirmishers, and that's to prevent the guns from being fired upon should any enemy infantry move within range to actually start shooting at them. They'll instead be shooting at the skirmishers. Now, at this point, we have basically completely eradicated the Allied left flank, our right. So what I'm doing is actually swinging my right kind of forward, to see if we can get that kind of astride the Namur Road, and almost sort of start to encircle them. Now, we can only move so far because we have to stay on the objective, but what I'm basically doing is sort of shifting my facing to face more towards Quatre, so that we kind of really start to remove the enemy's ability to try and move around our right flank. And they don't really even have anything out there at this point. So this stupid Dutch-Belgian unit that is just the most stubborn unit I've ever seen, we've forced them to withdraw like 5 times, and they keep coming back like the plague, sitting there in the lake in square. So, and they won't go away. So I keep moving a unit closer and closer, trying to engage them, but it looks like they have to get to really point-blank range to make this happen. And now we can finally see that they've started firing. So I've moved a cavalry unit over by that unit to keep them in square while we shoot them up, and hopefully we can get rid of them once and for all. So again, we have another Dutch cavalry group. They don't know what the hell to do with themselves. They want to do something, but there's nothing they can do. They keep coming forward, and they're just like, what do we do? At best, you can charge the skirmishers. Go ahead, charge them. You know, I'll either recall them or they'll retreat on their own, and I'm just going to bring them back up once you run away. You know, it's a fruitless charge. And I recalled them, but, you know, they didn't even charge. They just ran away immediately. And I'll just kick out another skirmisher group and plop them in front of the square again. All right, just as I think about swinging my right flank forward, sure enough, here comes some more allied units that are now going to try and move around my flank. So now I'm kind of sorry I did that. I should have stayed where I was. I mean, I still have plenty of units. I can still, you know, start to refuse my flank, but my artillery would have been better positioned to deal with them if I had left them where they were. But you know me, always greedy. I wanted to point them, you know, more towards the enemy. All right, so we've cleared out Grand-Pierrepont. Unfortunately, we're taking some casualties from that lone gun that withdrew and is still in canister range. But we have that cavalry unit that we used to capture those other guns right at the end of the last video. So I'm just going to have them move in and capture that battery and get them out of there. So now we have to occupy Grand-Pierrepont and just get the whatever points it's worth. It's not worth a lot, but it's going to unlock the next objective. So oblivious to this lone gun, here comes a cavalry squadron from behind them who are about to change their whole outlook on life. Meanwhile, this unit is going to have to eat a few more shots of canister before that cavalry unit gets to them. Alright, so we've got the leader in the fort. And we just need to get a unit in there, I think, and we'll have the objective. Yeah, one or two more shots of that, boys. Don't worry, the cavalry is almost there. It's only one gun, too, so it's not like they're getting sustained, pounding canister fire. It's, you know, just here and there. But here come the horses. Yeah, you're not getting out of here, boys. It's too late for that. You're just done for. There's no way you're hooking up and getting out. Alrighty, so that takes care of that. And now we just have to wait for the Bazi Wood South. You can see it has unlocked already on the mini-map. And let's just make another check here. So we've got them all just completely bottled up out here. They're just standing there. They don't have a clue what to do. A couple of units come forward. They're going to try and shoot it out with the fort. That's not going to work out so well. Obviously, being in a fort. So even though we had to, you know, move away and deal with other things, you know, as you can see, the line pretty much holds itself at this point. So again, we've made this Dutch-Belgian unit run back into the lake. They're about 10 feet underwater right now. Somehow they're able to breathe under there. And here come some more Allied units ready to take a crack at this. So we do have, luckily, we do have some guns that will just kind of turn to face them on their own. And all we'll do is kind of maneuver the skirmishers to screen them from the Allies. And I believe this unit is moved close enough that we can hit them with canister fire. Now, neither one of these squares have skirmishers in front of them right now, and this is a big line unit, so I would like to get these guys out of here as quickly as possible. On the same token, though, they're kind of blocking the facing, blocking the line of sight of anything behind them. So, in some ways, I'm like, okay that they're there. And this is that gun that was blasting the skirmishers with canister. Now there's a route open to them. So I'm going to send a cavalry squadron to get this gun out of the way. Because the only other gun is this one and this one back here, and they're too far away. But these guys are a little forward, so what I really want to do is take them. Now, if you recall, I've said in order to get a cavalry unit to charge the unit you want to charge, because there's a lot of targets right nearby here. You know, we have this, we have this. We want them to charge this gun, so I'm not even going to hit the charge button until this unit is right on top of the gun, so that it charges the gun, because that's the closest unit to it. And then these dummies haven't even formed square, so they're next. Alright, so there we go. Captured the gun, and we're going to run these guys off, because I have no idea why they didn't form square, but they didn't. And they are now going to pay the price for that. And the cavalry will just continue to pursue them as long as kind of they feel like it. I could hit retreat and pull them back, but I'm not too worried about it. Let them, you know, let them keep running and kind of doing as much damage as they can. It's only one squadron. It's 119 men. You know, as long as they're running stuff down, I'm inclined to let them kind of run it down as long as they can. You know, when they get tired, they'll stop. They're getting a lot of points, making mincemeat out of that unit. So again, just completely botched up here. They're trying to send some skirmishers forward. I could take my cavalry and run them down, but I'm inclined to just let the artillery shoot them. Wow, they really ran that unit off. So now we're just going to have them double quick back, and we'll let them rest for a while. Now I'm keeping an eye on this right square here, because they're really tired. Their fatigue is like really used up. So I don't know how much more they can take. But I do have a unit right behind that can form square and take up their position if they do break. And I'm trying to inch the guns forward just a little bit. Maybe I'm getting a little greedy here, but I'm still well behind the squares. And I just want to be able to kind of inch my canister range out a little bit further so I can catch some of this stuff. Alright, so I brought my other cavalry unit. Once the Dutch-Belgian unit retreated into the lake, I brought them forward because I can force some of these units into square and kind of stop up the advance a little bit. There's a lot of troops here, so if I can get a lot of them to form square, it's not going to be as bad as if they decided to all come forward, because I only got 2 units covering my right here. I got a little arrogant there and thought they had nothing else on the on their far left, and it turns out they did. So I perhaps swung my right towards Quatre a little sooner than I should have. But everything seems relatively secure. We can now get Bonaparte's division going and capture this this Bazi Wood South objective. So I only used Soy's brigade to capture Grand-Pierrepont. So Bowden's brigade is still unengaged, and again we're just going to move his entire division into position with line artillery front. And then once they're in position in front of the Bazi Wood, I'll start taking them by brigade and leading them in there. So now our artillery has refaced a little bit, at least the right part of it is, and we have a couple of guns blasting this unit with canister. You can see big holes in the lines. And again, cavalry is so good because pretty much you can use it to force infantry to stop advancing. You know, even if it's just one squadron, you know, they can't take the risk, so they have to stop and form square once they come into range. So I love using cavalry that way. Just as the threat of cavalry is like it's almost better than actually using it, you know. the threat of it alone is enough to stop your enemy in its tracks. And at the same time, we're set up to stop their cavalry from doing anything. You know, so they're all just kind of bottled up in here, kind of in front of Gemion Court, and they just don't know what to do. Every time they approach these fortresses, they're getting repulsed with heavy losses. This isn't good, fellas. This is not good. You have your flank facing my guns. You don't want to. That's not what you want to do. You can see all the bodies just from what they've taken so far. And this isn't going to work either. If you try to come forward, you're going to come into range of this cavalry. You're going to have to stop and form square. This is not my rule. This is nature's rule. That's just the way it works. So the canister has run these guys off really quickly. And these guys are not going to be able to advance. You know, yep, see? Well, they're forming line, so I could try and move the cavalry towards them and see if they form square. But as long as they're forming line, I'm happy enough to just shoot it out with them, because I don't want to get too distracted away from what I'm really trying to do here at this point. This part of the line is secure, but we have to keep getting points. You can see that the objectives, the waypoint objectives for Gemion Court and the northeast objective are gone now. So we're not getting points from objectives at this point, only casualties. So I want to get into Bazi South there and start occupying that objective. Because at this point, we've used up all our objectives. We've got all the points from them we're going to get. As I said, they're waypoint objectives. And just because multiple ones spawn after one after another, there's only 4 of them per objective, and eventually you do eat them up, and we have eaten them up. So now the only objective available to us at this point is either Bazi South or Quatre, and as I said, we're not going for Quatre, so we have to go for Bazi South. This was no doubt a refrigerator run, while Bonaparte's division is forming up outside the Bazi Wood there. And they are moving into position. And as you see, they were first forced to form square. So now they've got 2 line infantry units shooting at them, and they're in square. So really, they're in a bad spot. There's no way they're going to stand there very long. And by moving the cannon forward a little bit here, we've kind of moved everybody out of this area here. Now they're bottled up in an even smaller area. One of my cannon over here now has decided that they'd rather fire at the Dutch Belgians than the Bazi Wood, which it's fine. Nothing really in front of them is really making any kind of move towards them. Like I said, they're pretty bottled up. There's a skirmisher unit here, but I'm not worried. So what do we got in here? Not much. A couple of little. We got a good-sized brigade right here, right on the objective. But again, these are the Dutch Belgian units that we drove off earlier. So I think Bonaparte's division should have no problem just going in there and giving them the bulldozer, as I like to call it. So we'll move our guns up front here and let them begin shelling to soften things up for us. We got some more infantry coming forward in the center here. Right over here. Hopefully they get close enough that we can start peppering them with canister fire. I'm going to have the artillery target that skirmisher unit and see if we can't get them out of there. So again, another unit has set up in line. You guys are tired. I don't know where you guys think you're going. So we drove off the first square over here, and none of the other units are really coming forward. Still firing away at these Dutch Belgians in the lake here. And just making sure all my batteries are topped off with ammo while Bonaparte's division is setting up there. We'll head back there and see how they're doing. So okay, it looks like they're in. Looks like they're pretty much deployed. So we have, I think we have Soy on the left and Bowden on the right. And we've got our guns out front. So we're going to send Bowden up to this unit, and I believe they will probably just run away at the mere thought of that. In all honesty, that was the artillery that drove them off. Like I said, these units have been beat up pretty badly already, so I don't expect it will take much more than a gentle nudge to push them over the edge. So you can see all our objectives are gone now. So the only points we're getting right now are just through casualties that we're inflicting. And you can still gain points that way. It's, you know, artillery is still doing a number on these units in front of them. But you're not going to gain points at kind of the rapid rate you would when you're holding 2,000-point objectives like we were before. So we want to get that Bazi Wood objective. Now, we should be relatively close, because between these two objectives that are 1,000 points each, 4 times each, so we should be just at 8,000 points just from those, you know, not counting even kind of, you know, all the casualties we've inflicted and the other waypoint objectives we've captured so far. So, I mean, we should be... I'm hoping, I have to look at Ney, but I'm hoping we're at least over 10,000 points by now. So I'm moving these squares forward because I want to bring the guns even further forward, because as the Allies kind of withdraw from their front and pull back, they're keeping themselves out of canister range. I want to get into canister range so that I can keep inflicting casualties and keep accruing points. Because I know right now we don't have any objectives. So if I can inch forward a little bit, I'm gonna. Alrighty, so let's send Soy's brigade in. We're gonna put them in column by division. The Dutch Belgians are marching out to meet us, and it's going to be a head-on clash. And basically, there's not going to be too much finesse in this. I am just confident that my troops, who are hardly engaged at all, are going to smash into these Dutch-Belgian units who, as I've said before, I don't have a lot of respect for to begin with. And on top of that, like I said, they've been beaten up already. So I'm thinking I'm just going to kind of march right towards them and give them a good banging. They're sending some skirmishers out to meet us. Little do they know that we have no intention of getting into a gunfight with them. We're just going to charge and get them the hell out of there. And they will run off, as they should. We've got Bowden coming in on the right, so we're going to use Soy to strike the first hammer blow, and then have Bowden move in and finish them off. Kind of a 1-2 punch. So we'll form Soy up again here, and once he gets into position, we will just charge them again, and we're gonna have Bowden come in on the right flank, on their left flank, our right. Now, I didn't thin out the trees or anything in the Bazi wood like I did with my my Chancellorsville video, because while it's heavy in some spots, there's a lot of open spots too, so it's not that hard to see what's going on for the most part, as long as you're not like looking for a specific leader or something, or you know. So I'm double clicking them, I'm getting them into position, and then we're just gonna hammer fist right into these guys. Here we go. You know, I certainly do not want to stand there and get in a gunfight with these guys, because they do have a lot of men, and that would take a lot longer. But I'm confident that because they've been beaten up already, and because my troops are relatively fresh, that you know, I'm just going to charge into them, and they're going to give way. Not to mention, even if they don't all give way, I still have another brigade coming. So as you can see, we're just kind of knocking into them and getting them the heck out of there. And we're doing good. We're racking up the points. We're at 800 points already. We're just kind of charging into them and getting them out of there. And they're all breaking. And I thought that unit surrendered right here. And I kind of thought that would happen. Like I said, these are units that already got beat up. I'm sure they recovered a little bit, but you're never going to be the same as fresh troops. So we're going to send Bowden in now to polish off the rest of this. There's only a couple of battalions left. While we reform Soy's brigade. And now again, while I'm paying attention to all of this, I'm just trusting the rest of my line that it's set up well enough that nothing crazy is going to happen. So there's a whole bunch of Dutch-Belgian units kind of falling back, and we're going to try and reform Soy again here and bring Bowden in. So, nothing crazy. Everything's still looking good. Just back them off a little bit. We're still engaged with this. Boy, will they not go away, will they? That is the most stubborn unit I have ever seen. They're just determined to stay in that lake. And I'm just backing my unit off now because their morale has taken a little bit of a hit, and I just want to give them a chance to recover. we got one little Dutch cavalry unit here, but as I said, what are you going to do? There's squares right in front of them. They can go no further. Go ahead, boys. Keep coming forward, testing the waters. That's fine. Yeah, canister fire. Nothing like it. Ooh, they're taking 3 close-range shots of that already. And they're withdrawing. I have no idea why I'm advancing the square. I don't know what I was thinking there. You're not going to charge cavalry. So I'm thinking that Soy should be relatively reformed by now, and he is. He's gotten himself into a gunfight. Let's charge again. Hit these guys out of here. Now I'm being charged in the rear, which is one of the reasons I charge, so I can move forward and charge these guys and run them off, and then hopefully I can turn and charge these guys with a bunch of units. Which is exactly what happens here. If you can kind of see it through the trees here. And here comes Bowden's brigade in on the right. And we're going to have to bring Bowden's brigades forward, because I'm sure Soy's brigade is starting to get a little tired now. Alright, so Bowden has the objective. We're going to charge his brigade too. And these units are just retreating through my units. They'll probably surrender. So we've gotten our troops a little tied up and a little messy, but we'll order that out. We'll order that out as soon as all these Dutch Belgians run out of here. So we need to hold this for, looks like 9 minutes. And I'm not sure how many points it's worth, but I know it gets us close. These Dutch Belgian units you see running around my lines, they're retreating, which is why we can't charge them. They're just retreating, or they're routed. And we've been shooting at that cavalry squadron. Got ourselves some points there. All right, so now that the Bazi wood is cleared out, we can bring Bonaparte's artillery over here to shore up our left. Because it's certainly not going to do much good sitting where it is. We've already captured the objective. We don't really need to bomb away on whatever's left. So one Prussian battalion is attempting to reform. We're not going to give them the chance. There's a fresh unit right here. They have this from Bowden's brigade, so they haven't been engaged yet. So they're just going to crash into this unit and send them packing. You can see we're already mopping them up. And that's actually it. They're running. All these units are routed or retreating. They're just kind of routing and retreating through my lines. A lot of them will just surrender. And then once all these guys either surrender or rout and run away, we will grab our brigade commanders and get our units untangled and reformed. So Soy now has the objective, and he's got nearly 2,000 points. He did a lot of charging there, and He took almost 700 casualties, but he inflicted almost 1,500 casualties, so he did a good job. And I'm basically forcing my brigade to, as you can see, I have gone and got Bowden killed. This is kind of a running gag for me, because anytime I play any scenario with Bowden in it, I somehow always get him killed. I just have this tendency to get Bowden killed. Don't know why. But yeah, I have gone and got Bowden killed yet again. Oh, the pathing in this game. Just trying to find some place to put the leader. There we go. Good enough. And now our brigades will untangle and form a line kind of right behind the other. So while I got Bowden killed, Soy still lives, so he holds the objective. And another about 5 minutes to go on that. Let's see how everything else is going here. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. See? An infantry unit came forward, forced into square by the cavalry, and now they are fighting on even terms with our infantry square. But artillery is there hitting them too, and artillery does a lot of damage on squares. So that's kind of what the Horsey Fort does. Is if infantry is going to try and come forward, they're not going to be able to come forward and charge the squares. They're going to have to stop and form square themselves because there's cavalry right now. So all of this is designed to out rock paper scissors the rock paper scissors game, which is basically combined arms. You know, you want to have kind of a, you know, with the fortress and the Horsey Fort, what they're designed to do is sort of be catch-alls that can deal with any kind of mixture of combined arms without having to change anything about their own formation. And that's kind of what the fortress and the Horsey Fort do. So long as artillery is not involved in the equation. You know, and as you can see, all the Allied artillery is very far back. But the AI always does that. Very rarely will the AI actually bring its guns forward, which is why I developed these formations, why I developed the fortress, why I developed the Horsey Fort. These are formations that can hold their own without having to change anything about themselves. You know, the only catch-all, the only caveat is that enemy artillery can't be around because, you know, artillery will break down anything if you can get it close enough, including a fortress or including a Horsey Fort. But the AI doesn't fight like that. The AI just sets its guns up way far back, which is why in my video of my thoughts on the next Scourge of War game, one of the things I said is I feel like the AI needs to learn to fight with its artillery better, because it's just too easy to put up these catch-all defense formations like the fortress or the Horsey Fort and have virtually no repercussions because the allies or the enemy or the AI, I'm sorry, will not use its artillery like I do. And you're seeing a prime example of that right now, where, you know, I'm able to, for, you know, minutes on end, not pay attention to, you know, 80% of my force and not worry about it, because it's like I have an extra arm that they don't. You know, because so we're over 15,000 points. We already have enough for a major victory. And I don't think we've even collected on the Bazi Wood South objective yet, which is why I say you don't need to go for Bazi Wood North. Because if you've done things right and really kept a tight line like this and just knocked back the Allied counterattacks, you know, it's not hard to get to 15,000 points just holding those objectives at Gemion Court and the northeast objective. So even when they wear off and you're no longer getting points from them, they should have already yielded you quite a lot of points. And you'll either get close to it or, get over it. And then, Bazi Wood South should either put you over the top or have you so close to it that you can get the rest through just casualties. Because trust me, there's no point along this line where you are taking more casualties than you're inflicting. It's just not happening. If you set this up right, believe me, you're inflicting more casualties at all points along the line than you're taking. Simply because we're using an arm that up close that the AI doesn't. We bring our artillery forward, where it can do its most deadly work, so to speak. Where they've got their artillery set up basically back at Quatre, and it's doing nothing. So I got a gun there that somehow managed to stay over there. They probably got engaged along the way or something and had to stop. But I'm pretty sure they'll make it now. And we'll bring Bonaparte's supply wagon up to get behind our battery here. So now we have two batteries over here on the left, and you're just never going to get it. All right, so we've cleared the Bazi Wood South objective, and now we've opened up Bazi Wood North. And as I said, that is way up by Quatre, kind of west of it on the crossroads there. And we've already got enough for a major victory, so we have no interest in trying to take it. And since Bazi Wood South is a waypoint objective, why am I moving that square? I almost certainly did not mean to do that. Or I'm moving to open up the field of the artillery's fire here. That would be my guess. That's what I'm doing. However, that's a big battery. I'm not sure I quite want to leave that much room open. Certainly not without moving the squares a lot further forward. Because I don't want the chance that the cavalry can actually charge between the squares and get to the guns. So on top of having the two squares in front here, we'll put this cavalry squadron right behind the right square there. So if I need to countercharge, I can. However, with those two squares there, I'm confident that cavalry squadron is going to turn around. There's Bonaparte. He's got about 2,500 points. And with the exception of the artillery battery, who I'm going to keep on take charge, we're going to bring Bonaparte's division out of the Bazi Wood at this point and become our reserve. And there they go, on the march. So all I did was take the entire division off of take charge and just put, except the artillery battery, and then I just put Bonaparte on take charge and moved his whole division out of the Bazi Wood in column, and then to make sure they marched without getting distracted by any leftover Dutch units in the wood, I took charge of all subordinates. And so they will all march to behind the lines where I want them to be. And what I'll do then is split Bonaparte's division up. I'll send one brigade over here to reinforce the right, because we've split off a lot of skirmishers at this point. Some of the units behind in reserve are kind of small, so it'd be good to have another brigade. So we have 16,238 points. About 1,000 points more than we need for a major victory. So now all we have to do now for the next 45 minutes or so is protect our lead, because we've taken all the objectives that we're going to get now. So now it's just combat versus combat. So we're pretty much just going to protect our lead and, keep extracting as many casualties as we can from the Allies, so that we stay ahead on points and we don't lose any. which at this point is not going to be hard to do because this is a tank. This is a tank of a line right here. Unbelievable that these two line units and this one cavalry squadron are holding this whole division back right here. I think to some degree a lot of the fight has just gone out of the Allies at this point. You know, they cannot figure out how to get around this. You know, you're not going to do it with just infantry and cavalry. That's just never going to happen. You know, if they really wanted to start making me pay the price for setting these squares up, you have to bring your guns forward and really start pounding them and make me feel it. You know, sending a skirmisher unit or two forward to pick at them, that's not going to make me move. Not in the slightest. You know, even this tired, weary square right here is still holding. You know. And I'm still blasting these units with canister fire. And I'll just split off some more skirmisher units. And they're just to even the deal here with these, you know, the Allies have 2 skirmisher units out here, or 3. This one's running away. But I just want to keep things even. See, they come forward, they get rocked, and they get knocked back. We're just knocking these attacks back because they're sending, you know, one unit forward at a time, and that's never going to do anything. You know, and they don't have any guns up front. That's the real killer here for the Allies, is they have no artillery up close. And without artillery, you have nothing to compel me to change anything I'm doing. Because my squares are going to keep your cavalry from doing anything, and my artillery is going to shoot up your infantry. You know, so us having the guns is really making just the big difference here. And we'll just continue knocking units back as long as they keep coming forward. And that seems to be where the AI is at right now. They're, you know, very tentative to come forward because they've gotten their butts kicked so many times now from trying to do that. At the same time, they're trying to do something, so they just keep pushing units forward kind of piecemeal one at a time, and then they just keep getting knocked back. So here comes Bonaparte's division marching out of the Bazi Wood. And we have a gun that we captured here, so I think I'll just attach them to probably Bonaparte's battery and just see if we can get them to march up here. That'll take them a while because they're a lone gun, so I don't think they have a horse. They're going to have to manually push themselves up here. And again, you see another unit trying to cross the river here, but they're going to get forced into square by the horsey forts, and it's just going to be the same as last time. They're going to get knocked back. And that's one of my favorite ways to use cavalry. Oh, look at this! We have the Coldstream Guard. Big units, veteran units, kind of the best units the British have here is the Coldstream Guard. And look at the size of these battalions. things could get interesting here. Well, the first thing I want to do is see if we can get some skirmishers on their flank. That is a big, big battalion there. So with no cavalry around now, maybe we set up in line here. Split off some skirmishers. See if we can't shoot these units in the flank. And these guys are actually close enough to engage, I think. I think they're going to start firing. Yep, they're engaging. Now I see a cavalry battalion squadron approaching here, so I'm probably going to shift these guys back into square if this cavalry gets close. And I'm watching them. I know it's kind of risky having them in line. If you have units in line, then you gotta pay attention, because then they could be charged, and then that would leave the guns defenseless. So as long as the unit is in line, I will keep an eye on them. And I'm checking to see how the units in the fort are doing, because that is a big guard battalion shooting at them. So here comes the cavalry. I'm definitely taking note of them. Ooh, I do believe we're ripping canister into this battalion from a couple of these guns over here. Oh, these guys are exhausted. I can't believe they're still holding. I've got units in reserve set up to take their place. But as long as they're holding, I'm going to keep them holding. And these damn Dutch Belgians are back again. Can we make these guys rout? Can I get a rout, please? And here comes the cavalry. And I'm going to move forward and form square. Now they're charging. And they've stopped. And now there's a square blocking them. They might have gotten a piece if they had kept charging. But no, now you're just eating canister fire. Time to get out of there. And we are still set up on their flank. So even in square, we're going to do some damage to these guys, because we set up right on their flank. And I just want to keep a lookout, because with this big guard unit in here in front of us, I'm sure that our units in the fort are taking more casualties now. So Soy is probably pretty well rested up at this point. We're going to send him over to the right. He's still got, almost 3,000 men. Finally, this Dutch-Belgian unit routed. Finally. Only took us 2.5 hours. Somebody should give those boys, like, some kind of courage medal or something, because they wouldn't leave. They kept coming back for more. And they spent about 2 hours underwater. And yeah, take some canister fire on the way out, guys. Oh, so I'm very happy that is finally over and those guys have routed. And I can, basically that also frees this unit up now. I can bring them over here where they're needed. Not much going on over here. And I got distracted by that. I meant to bring Soy's brigade over here. So let's do that. I'm just going to set him up kind of in line right behind the hedgerows. And he's basically just going to be the tactical reserve right now. If we need units to take up spots in the line for units that rout or retreat or are too tired, you know, we have his whole brigade right here. That's a good place for it. And by putting them in line, I have units that can reach kind of any part of the right there. And we'll keep Bowden's brigade on this side of the line. And the only real course of action for the Allies at this point, and I know they keep getting a ton of reinforcements, would really be to go through the Bazi Wood and to try and turn my left flank. That's really their only option at this point. They're not going to break through in a frontal manner. Their only real option is to try and turn my left through the Bazi Wood. So I'm going to shore up my left flank a little bit and, you know, tighten up my formations and keep Bowden's brigade in reserve to kind of be ready if anything happens on the left. Because they don't really have any other real options here. If they try and move around my left, my right, I'm just going to refuse the line and lock down on the lake again, and they're not going to get by it. So that's really not an option. So really the only option for the Allies at this point, and they have the troops to do it. Certainly, you know, they keep getting reinforcements, and it doesn't look like they're bringing a lot of them forward at this point. They're probably just out of view back behind Quatre. Really what they should do is try and outflank my left by going through the Bazi Wood. It'll take a long time, and they really only have a half hour or so at this point, but that would be where I would look for an attack. So again, the cavalry has withdrawn out of the area, so again I'm going to put this unit in line and see if we can shoot at their flank. Look at Soy's passing. No good, fellas. That's not going to work. So we're going to put them further back so they take a route that keeps them behind our lines. And they'll turn right here. That would have been a mess if I had let that ride. And I think Bowden's brigade, I'm just going to kind of turn him to face the Bazi Wood, put him in column by division, and just be ready if anything comes through there. All right, so now this is what I was talking about when I said that the this scenario was sort of compressed from, you know, what was like a 5 or 6 hour battle into a 3 hour scenario. So events are kind of sped up to make it fit into a 3 hour scenario. So basically what that message was is telling us it's really about 8 p.m., not 4:30, and it's going to start to get dark. You know, so even though our game clock here is at 16:30, because of the compressed nature of the scenario and the fact that instead of having it be in real time as far as how the events unfold, they sped things up to basically make it a 3 hour scenario. So they're just going to have nightfall pop up in the last half hour of the scenario to kind of simulate how the battle ended. So now you can see we're just dropping the left side of this unit here. And there's a lot of men here. Both these battalions are probably like 1,000 man units. So I'm happy that I'm able to get on their flank. We're firing canister into their right flank from this battery right here. So we're going to actually extract a lot of points from them because being a Coldstream Guard battalion, their troop quality is pretty high. They're probably level 7 veteran. In fact, I think they are level 7 veteran. Which means they'll sit there and take it for longer before breaking and running. Which basically means we're going to get more points out of them. So I'm happy that that unit is a Coldstream Guard unit because they're going to stand there and take this beating for a longer time than, you know, like a Dutch-Belgian unit would. So we're at 17,000 points. About 1,000 points higher than we were before. And these boys basically are saying, yeah, we've had enough. We don't even want to try this. Now, I believe at around 1630, some of these Allied units are kind of scripted to start withdrawing. Because other than that, I can't see a reason why they're retreating. They're not being engaged. We have some units. This is probably elements now of Alton's 3rd Division moving in here. So, again, there's cavalry right back here, so you're only coming so far, fellas. If you try to come any closer, you're going to have to form square. So I don't have to worry about them charging, because the cavalry is right there. Oh, we are just ripping into these units. Look at this. This is fun. This is just fun for the whole family right here. We're ripping. Look, we shot the whole left flank of this Coldstream Guard unit out. We're shooting canister into that Dutch-Belgian unit. They don't even have a clue what to do over here. It's just like, this is unapproachable. This isn't a fortress. This is the Great Wall of China over here. So I'm just keeping an eye on the Bazi Wood because, like I said, if anything's going to happen, it's going to happen through here. And there are some Dutch-Belgian units in there, but they don't seem to be making a move for us. And these units are still marching away. I'm wondering if maybe they're thinking about going and trying to go around the flank, but I mean, that's just going to make a long march, and I'm still going to see it coming. I'm still going to have plenty of time to lock down on the lake. And if I have to, I'll send the cavalry squadron out there to block you and force you into square until I'm ready. So we've got all these units now forced into square. All these units over here. The one of the guard units has pulled back. These guys have had enough of the canister fire. Oodles of fun over here. And all of these guys are just wrapped up in square, while our skirmishers are just picking at them. And we still got some more units moving in behind them. It looks like the Coldstream Guard is trying to reorient themselves. And yeah, over here it's pretty safe because this is pretty much unapproachable. I haven't even bothered to put skirmishers in front of this battery yet because just nobody's even making an attempt to come near them. So, yeah. Get stuck in square, guys. You see Soy's brigade making their way over to our right to become the reserve. And I'm just every once in a while, I'm keeping an eye on the Bazi Wood because, you know, they could sneak through there without me really noticing it because of all the trees. You know, so like I said, I'm just going to shore up my line, make sure my my units are nice and tightly packed. This is Gunther's brigade over here. You know, my guys that can't change it to any other formation but line. We got some cavalry out here. That's just a supply wagon. Oh, these guys are moving. I don't know where they're going, but they are moving. They're just one battalion, though. And again, that's just one leftover battalion that we didn't quite destroy utterly. So they're still hanging out in there. And yeah, we do have a skirmisher unit in the woods there, so we'll send them ahead to be an early warning sign. Look at all this cavalry just boxed up back there. I am getting really worried about this square, though. I mean, they've been whittled down quite a bit. I mean, these guys are getting bombed on with canister fire, but I'm thinking maybe I should send some cavalry out and try and form some of these units into square. And you know, if some of them don't, maybe I can actually get a charge off and break them. All right, so they're forming square, and that's really the unit I wanted to form square. And they actually failed their morale check, and off they run. So just by moving a cavalry unit forward there, these guys broke trying to form square. These guys did form square. These guys are kind of safe because they're between squares, but they're going to form square as well. So yeah, just moving a cavalry, I didn't even charge. Just moving a cavalry squadron forward changed everything up here. Because I'm worried about this square right now. Look, there's not much left of them. They've been pretty shot up. You know, I have reserve units back here that can take up their position, and then behind them I of course have Soy's brigade moving in, so we have plenty of reserves. But you don't want them to break at the wrong moment and put your guns in trouble. Alright, so now that they have moved kind of where I want them to be, I can move them up to where I originally want them to be, but they couldn't go to because of the passing. But now they're close enough that that should work. So I bring them up right behind the lines. Doesn't hurt to have a cavalry squadron right here either, because anything... Oh, we have some units. Would I see some... I see a... Oh, I think this was this unit was out here and marched into the wood. But it's really the only thing they could do is try and outflank me. They're not going to get across this. It's just too much firepower in front of them. As you can see, the screen is starting to darken a little bit. This is to simulate dusk and nightfall approaching. So I think I'm going to send some skirmisher units forward to pick at these squares here. There's not too much. There's no more cavalry around on this side of the field, so I'm becoming a little more cavalier with my formations. You know, forming line with certain units, sending more skirmishers out, because there's not much left over here as far as cavalry goes. All the cavalry seems to be bottled up in here, and I have plenty of cavalry, plenty of squares, plenty of guns. Just like I said, this is the Iron Curtain right here. You're not getting through this. Not a chance. Well, I see 2 battalions now. This is why I keep coming over and looking. I'm just seeing what they're doing. They're either retreating and marching away, or they're going to come towards me. I mean, I'm really not worried. I have Gaunther's brigade out there, and I have Bowden's brigade, which is, you know, hardly engaged at all. So the first, at the top of the screen there, the 1st battalion there of the Coldstream Guards has fallen back. Here comes a cavalry squad. What are you guys doing? You think you're charging? I got a surprise for you. That's not going to work. You're just going to eat some canister fire, and then you're going to turn around like you did the last 3 times. Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so I got a nice little skirmisher line out here now. Right over, really picking apart these squares. Gotta say, I like it. I see some fresh troops moving in by Quatre. Don't know if they'll be able to pull anything together in only 20 minutes. I certainly wouldn't send them forward against this. I would send them into the wood and try and hit my... Certainly my left flank is the weakest. But I don't think there's enough time. I don't think there's enough time for them to actually try and go through the wood and arrive on my left flank. But let's go see what they got here. Yeah, it looks like they're just setting up to sit there. See, look at all this artillery they have back here. They have a ton of guns, and they're absolutely useless being set up back there. Artillery in this game, as I've always said, it's best up front. The hardest thing about doing that is just, you know, protecting them. But as you can see, I've developed many, many ways to protect the guns so that I can bring them into an effective range. Not even necessarily always canister range, but, you know, even outside of canister range, 300-400 yards, you're doing damage. You're getting hits. You know, it's out past about 600 yards or so that it really starts to get ineffective. But bringing them up and making them, you know, kind of the front of our line here really makes it so that any unit that tries to approach is going to pay a very, very heavy cost. I got my skirmisher unit here. That's my early warning sign. And I'm going to send them kind of... I see, you know, this unit right in here. So I'm just going to send them kind of toward them. Now, there's no more objectives on the screen at this point. We've eaten up all the objectives. So really what we're doing is just concentrating on protecting our lead and increasing it, you know, by just demolishing as many of these units as we can. And that's what we're doing. Look how much of this square we shot up. Look at this. Oh, God. This isn't even a complete square anymore. I bet you I could charge them and break them. I'm not gonna because that's risky, but I bet you it would work if I did. Because there's not much left of that square. So we are at 18,000 points. Technically, I could activate Durlan's entire corps right now, and that would drop us down to 15,000 points. We'd still win. But I'm not going to do that. Like I said, there's no reason to activate Durlan or the cavalry. As you can see, the battle is totally winnable without it. You just don't want to do what Ney did historically, which was actually go for the crossroads. That's where things went wrong for him, because eventually he was outnumbered and the Allies did counterattack, and, you know, Ney was not set up to meet that. He was attacking himself. So he just got counterattacked and ran off. But we knew what was going to happen, so we didn't try to go for the crossroads. Instead, we set up a nasty defensive line here and basically just let the Allies and all their reinforcements pound themselves to death against it. And it's really starting to darken out there. Our visibility is starting to decrease now, and that just means we have to keep an eye on things a little more, because now we can't quite see the end of our line the way we could before. So if the Allies are going to try and do something sneaky, now's the time to do it, when our visibility is decreased. But no, they all look content to just sit there. I'm so glad I don't have to worry about that stupid unit in the lake anymore. Now notice some cavalry making its way back over here, and two Brunswick battalions are moving in too. So let's see what's going to happen here. And I'm trying to send some skirmishers forward to cover the square because I see that it's really, really, really shot up. And I see those two Brunswick battalions coming towards it. I'm hoping the cavalry is just wandering around and they're not really serious about coming forward. I'm watching them. They're just standing there right now. If they start moving further forward, maybe I'll form square. Everything looks pretty square around here. Yep, here they come. Hit the square. And all that means is he'll get turned around. And there they go. So now it's safe to bring the skirmishers up. Because I really want to protect this square because it's shot up, it's tired. And with that cavalry running off, I think it's pretty safe to do that now. You boys are pretty brazen to drop out a square like that. There they go. Get back in the square. This is not much left of that square. Okay, so what's happening is I'm having to pull my cavalry back behind the skirmishers, which is out of range of square, or out of range to force the units into square. So what I'm going to do is advance the skirmishers so I can bring the cavalry a little closer and hopefully form them into square. What is going on back here? There's a whole bunch of battalions moving in. There we go. Now we're triggering the square. So it looks like these units have set up kind of right here. They don't look like they have any real evil intentions. We're skirmishing with this battalion here. Nothing really happening though. And I feel like I'm taking too long over here. There's nothing going on over here, and there were some possibilities going on over in the center, and I really feel like that's where I should be, and not here. Because it's kind of dark out now, and it's tough to just swing the camera and actually see my whole line. So with no cavalry around, there's no reason for this unit to be in square anymore. I'm actually going to send them into the fort because it seems like I thought I had 2 units in there. Now there's only 1, so one of them must have routed out of there. So see how I advanced the cavalry by keeping them behind a line of skirmishers? So we force these units into square and then shoot them up. And this, again, this unit This unit has tried to come out of square here. And it doesn't look like they're going to form this time. I think you boys are about to eat it. And I think all you units behind him are about to eat it. Oh, they're breaking. Let's see if we can hit these other units too. And they're breaking as well. None of these guys are trying to form square. What a smorgasbord. Oh yeah, lest we forget. Let's move another unit up to force this battalion coming forward into square. Wow, look how that one squadron just derailed that whole line that was coming forward. Might as well take some guns too. Oh, look at this. They're charging my skirmisher unit. Oh, doesn't look like I saw it. That's not good. Yeah, I'm worried about the skirmishers in the woods. Go back over to the square, Rob, you dummy. That's the weak square, too. Yep, they got hit. They got hit. But you know what? That's what we have cavalry for. Go get them, boys. I don't expect that square to last. Yeah, they're done. But you know what? Now you just got hit by some cavalry, fellas. Take a hike. Alright, well that square was doomed anyway. Yeah, that was the one that was weak, was tired, had been shot to pieces. So, no problem. We'll just bring up one of our reserve units and have them form square and take up the position. My little cavalry charge here disrupted the entire Allied center, so I'm sure we have plenty of time to get this line set up. That was a nice last-minute attempt, though, on the Allies' part. Ooh, take that. That's a parting gift. All right, so you know, I was getting ready to pull that square out anyway. I didn't, you know, they had been shot up pretty bad. So now we got a fresh 500-man battalion moving into position to take up the mantle of the square holder here. And got our 2 line units in there now. We can really come out of square with these guys and shoot these guard units in the flank. There's no reason for us to be in square at this point. We really caved in their whole center with that cavalry charge. Oh, the other Coldstream Guard unit has decided it's time to run. And this one has decided it's time to run. Oh, I know why. It's now nighttime. So, I believe just engaging in combat at night causes your morale to plummet. So, that's why these units are all running away now. I don't think you can actually really engage in combat once it's nighttime, because if you do, your morale will just instantly nosedive. So what units are in combat will disengage soon. And if they don't, it doesn't matter because the visibility will get to the point where they'll all disengage. Oh, now look at this. The line advances now that the guns can't see him anymore. So let's use this cavalry and see if we can trigger a square formation. That's just perfect. And now we'll basically, since the guns no longer have line of sight because it's dark out, we will turn that fortress into a horsey fort. And very quickly here, the line of sight will diminish to such a point that nobody can see anybody. Yep, everybody's running off. Time to go to bed. And all our skirmishers are doing just fine against these squares. Really shooting them up. And it's now getting so dark that very soon everything will cease. So 18,717 points. So we've taken almost 3,000 casualties. We've inflicted 9,000 casualties. So quite a different result than historically, where I think both sides took about the same amount of casualties. I think the French took around 4,000 casualties. I think Wellington took about 4,800 casualties. So it was, relatively even as far as casualties go. And there we go. It is so dark now that all units can no longer see each other. And we have about a minute and a half left in the scenario. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. It's the big key here is to get to the Gemion Court line and then set up a strong defense. Use the fortress, use the horsey forts, bring your guns forward, and stop there. You're going to get all the points you need. Don't try to keep advancing towards Quatre. Then you won't be set up to meet the Allied reinforcements. They're going to outnumber you greatly, and because you can't set up this kind of iron curtain defense, they're going to just run you off, and that's how you lose the scenario. So get to the Gemion Court line, set up a strong defense, and you'll be able to just knock back the Allied attacks every time they try and come forward. And that's how you win the scenario. That's the basic gist of what you're doing here. Don't engage, don't activate their lawn, don't activate the cavalry. All of that stuff costs points. If you activate their lawn, you lose 3,000 points. If you activate the cavalry, you lose 2,000 points. So you don't want to lose any points. So don't activate them. Just set up a strong defense, just like I did here, from the Bazi Wood to the northeast objective, and make sure to bring your guns up. And there you go, major victory. 18,732 points. So as you can see, it can totally be won without having to activate the reserves. Just like I said, get to the Gemion Court line, set up that strong defense, and let the Allies pound themselves to death against it. Your formations basically make it so that their infantry and cavalry will just get shot to pieces. And because the Allies generally don't attack with artillery, they just set it up kind of in back of their line. It gives you an unfair advantage in terms of you have three arms: cavalry, artillery, and infantry, and they're really only working with two: infantry and cavalry. And your formations are set up to stop both equally. So that's what makes that defense so good. And then the Gemion Court and the Northeast objectives will give you a ton of points. The way your defense is set up will also give you a ton of points. And then you just come forward once you've got everything squared away and you're comfortable to look away for a few minutes. Start bringing Bonaparte's division up to take Grand-Pierrepont, and then just send them into the Bazi Wood and just clear out whatever's left in there. Um, and that's pretty much the key to winning the scenario. Uh, all right, that's it for this episode. And in the next episode, we are again going to be playing the Battle of Quatre, but this time from the Allied side. And pretty much the name of the game here is just abusing these same defensive tactics. As I said, the AI is very predictable in its attack, and we're just going to use these deadly formations, the fortress, the horsey fort, all that stuff, and just brutally repulse these French attacks. All right, I guess I'm going to split the next. I'll split it. It's also a 3-hour scenario. Then the next one, the Quatre from the Allied side. So again, I'll split it up into a two-parter, and we'll do an hour and a half of each one. And I'll put that up in a couple of days, guys. Maybe 3 days or whatever. I usually like to, after I upload a video, give you guys a chance to, digest it before I just start throwing video after video after video up, and without giving you guys a chance to actually, watch it and absorb it and study it and whatnot. So yeah, I guess I'll put the first half up of the Allied version of Quatre in, like 3 or 4 days or something, maybe over the weekend. All right, guys, that's it. Take it easy.